A Republican state senator from the state of Minnesota had a pretty wild Monday, I guess you would call it. He goes to work Monday morning at the, Minnesota State Senate. The man's name, by the way, Justin Eichhorn. Eichhorn is a 40-year-old married man, got 4 kids, and he wakes up in the morning on Monday, goes to the Minnesota State Senate where he co-sponsors a piece of legislation that would officially classify Trump derangement syndrome as a mental illness under the state's, mental illness guidelines. Specifically, the legislation says Trump derangement syndrome means the acute onset of paranoia in otherwise normal persons that is in reaction to the policies and presidencies of President Donald J. Trump. Symptoms may include Trump-induced general hysteria, which produces an inability to distinguish between legitimate policy differences and signs of psychic pathology in President Donald J. Trump's behavior. This may be expressed by verbal expressions of intense hostility toward President Donald J. Trump and overt acts of aggression and violence against anyone supporting Donald J. Trump or anything that symbolizes President Donald J. Trump. So basically classifying a mental illness for anyone who doesn't like Trump, right? Liberals are all mentally ill. Ha 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 ha. I'm putting forth this legislation. Now, as I've repeatedly said, there is Trump derangement syndrome. It is in fact real. It's just not what conservatives think it is. No, the real Trump derangement syndrome are people like Eichhorn who believe that Donald Trump is a completely infallible god here in the United States and that we should bow down to him and make him our dictator. That is derangement. But nevertheless, I guess as a way to celebrate putting up this legislation, just a few hours later, Eichhorn was then arrested for soliciting a minor for sex. According to the Minnesota Star Tribune, Eichhorn allegedly arranged to meet someone in Bloomington he thought was a teenage girl for sex, but turned out to be a police detective. Eichhorn's arrest was announced by police on Tuesday, who told the media that the detective posing as the 16-year-old made arrangements to meet Eichhorn at a location in Bloomington, a suburb southwest of the state capital in St. Paul, around 6 p.m. Central Time. Eichhorn arrived in a pickup truck and was arrested without incident outside of his vehicle by a uniformed police officer. As a 40-year-old man, if you come to the Orange Jumpsuit District looking to have sex with someone's child, you can expect that we are going to lock you up, said Bloomington Police Chief Booker Hodges in a statement announcing the arrest. I have always advocated stiffer penalties for these types of offenses. We need our state legislature to take this case and this type of conduct more seriously. So, as of right now, obviously, he was just arrested. He's still being held because it's a felony and it's a child sex abuse felony, so they're not letting him go. Again, he's married with 4 children, a state senator, a Republican, of course, because it's always Republicans. But all of these things are alleged, right? Because he hasn't been convicted, so legally we have to say alleged. But could you imagine? Here is what I am picturing happened in my mind if the allegations are true. Just a, warning there. So he puts forward this legislation saying liberals are mentally ill. Woo boy, I'm going to go celebrate by having sex with a kid. Who's mentally ill here? Right? Like who's the real problem in this situation? Because I'm pretty sure it's you, if the allegations are true. If not, then the scenario that I just laid out obviously didn't happen. I mentioned this, what I'm about to say, in a segment I did over at my other channel, Fair and Balanced, a couple days ago. And it's this. And it was, by the way, the segment talking about Trump's former spiritual advisor getting indicted for molesting children. And because we've also seen so many stories of people associated with Moms for Liberty turned out to be sex offenders. We've seen it with other Republican religious leaders. Hell, we've seen it in Trump's cabinet and in Trump himself. Like all of these sex offenders, right? Alleged sex offenders, I should say. But either way, some of them have been convicted. Either way. So I think what we need to start doing is anytime you see a Republican leader, a politician, religious leader, whatever it is, not the average everyday Republican on the street, but a Republican in a position of power, at this point, it's probably safer to assume that they're a sex offender than to assume that they're not. Like, you're going to be right more often than you're going to be wrong at that point if you just assume all Republican leaders are sex offenders. Like, that's the point we're at. And yet, these are the same people that tell you, we got to protect the people in the bathrooms from the transgenders. Those aren't the threats to our kids. Apparently, you guys are. Which, of course, is why you're trying to deflect the blame onto other people. I've never seen a story about a transgender person or a drag queen molesting a child in a bathroom, but we have seen that with Republican leaders, politicians, and religious leaders. So, I'm going to default into assuming that all of you are just sex offenders until you prove otherwise to me. Thanks for watching, everybody, and if you're not already, please subscribe to the channel. We got fresh content every day for you. And if you want to follow us across social media, make sure you check out all of the social links that we have posted in the description of this video.